Welcome to Sciences Po Urban School. It's an urban school within Sciences Po, an international research university, which is interdisciplinary because to work on cities and to understand, to do something in terms of collective action, you need to work on different disciplines. Cities are part of a world of cities, but not just. They're part of a world of states, of NGOs, of large international organizations, of firms, of people moving in different parts of the world. So you need all these disciplines in order to be able to do something. Cities are back in town, and the urban school has a particular take on those issues. Of course, we're interested in planning and architecture, but that's only one bit of what is going on in those cities. What we want is to train people who will be involved in the collective action within city, to implement public policy, to implement policies with or against inhabitants, with or against firms, and to deal with all sorts of issues. We're dealing with poverty, housing, transport, to deal with new technologies, to use big data. And that's the training we want to provide with a core curriculum of very strong classes and courses with intellectual tools for the rest of your life, with very strong training in terms of methods, and with a set of more innovative pedagogy in terms of visits, capstone, and all sorts of workshops where you can use. That's the project. We want to train critical minds, people who will be able to think, to be able to take some distance from all this bloody best practice, and who will be able to have a comparative analysis. Our teaching and training is based upon the comparison of both collective actions, problems, forms of policies in cities in different parts of the world, in France, in Europe, and in cities all over the world. And as you know, there's a good reasons to really try to emphasize the importance of those cities, because we are still in the century of urbanization, and you know how much both metropolis, big ones, small size ones, are central. Majority of people live in cities, but energy, production of wealth, inequalities, gas emission are more concentrated in those cities all over the world. They could be in mega metropolis in Asia or Latin America or Africa, but also in the dense networks of small and medium-sized cities in Europe. And also remember that it's not over, and we see the emerging of a lot of new cities and new towns all over Asia and Africa in particular. In other words, the cities, the metropolis of today, they are the leaders and the targets. The leaders because considerable resources have been accumulated and concentrated in those cities in terms of money, expertise, social movements, infrastructure, and that's in those cities that solutions to some of the most important problems of humanity will be solved and solutions have to be implemented. But on the other hand, if those cities are the leaders for economic development, cultural creations, tolerance for refugees, migrants, for being placed for social mobility, for all sorts of creation, they are also a place where you see violence, where you see dreadful forms of urbanization, where you see forms of domination, where you see inequalities, poverty, flooding, or air pollution. And that's this tension that should be solved and governed. The key point of the urban school is to think in governance terms, to think how to govern, how to solve those problems, but in relation to who is governed, to think that you need to work with all diversity of people, of group, of social class, ethnic groups, of firms, of various groups and organizations. And that's this collective action element. And we know also that governance is about failures, about corruption, about discontinuity, about illegalities. That's the particular take we have on those issues in the urban school. What program have we designed for you? We have basically 4 master degrees, 2 in French and 2 in English. 2 in French, briefly. One is called Regional and Urban Strategies. It's in French in front of me, it's not in English, which is more about France, where you work really on governance, urban policy, social segregation, issues of environment, housing, health, but in the French and European context in French. Another in French is called Cycle d'Urbanisme, which is an urban planning degree, which is in 3 semesters and is addressed also for young professionals with 2 or 3 years of experience and people coming from a bachelor. We have 2 degrees entirely in English. One is called the Governing Large Metropolis degree, where Fatoumata will present that in a minute because she got a degree from this master degree, and which is about the governance of large metropolis outside Europe and with the big urban problems all over the world, what can be done, what solutions and what capacity to change the life of inhabitants exists there. And the new ones we created last year, governing ecological transitions in European cities, which is, of course, is about these ecological transitions and the way solutions are implemented in European cities, because as you know, not so much is taking place at the state level. We also have 3 double degrees, where people will spend 1 year at Sciences Po and 1 year either at the London School of Economics with a double master in urban policy. We have a very original master degree with the Colegio de Mexico, which is about the comparative urban governance, 1 year at Sciences Po, 1 year in Colegio de Mexico, and the new ones, which is quite exceptional, with UCLA, that will open September next year with the School of Planning at UCLA, the urban planning program, and 1 year at Sciences Po. That's the sort of opportunities you have if you come. Let me emphasize the fact that the question is, what do you next? What do you do after such an urban school? And I want to emphasize, number one, that we have remarkable results in terms of labor market, and our students do extremely well on the labor market on the short term, but they also have very interesting careers over time. There are 3 ways to enter the labor market. One is to choose a specialization in an urban sector you are interested in. That could be housing, could be social policy, education, transport, big data, could be the climate crisis. You choose a sector, and from there you decide where you want to work and in what type of organization. But some people are more convinced they want to really work on a particular type of territory. They want to work, let's say, in Brittany, for instance, or they want to work in Northern Europe or Southern Europe, or they want to work in Asian cities or African cities. And some other people, they prefer to work in a type of organization. They want to work in an international organization or a private consultancy, in a firm, in a public organization. So you have different ways to enter the labor market, and then you combine those different dimensions, and that allows you to have very diverse careers, and our students will work public, private, local, national, international, France, and foreign countries. We have tried to develop a very innovative set. It's a training, a formation, we say in French, where you have methods, and some of the most original programs is to what we have done around the capstones, which is a professionalization experience. You work with a group of people for a professional organization. The first year, immediately when you arrive, you have all these conceptual classes, but also this professional experience. And we also have a lot of methods, a lot of workshops and visit and big study trip. And Fatoumata will say a word about that in different cities. The urban school, finally, is a set of partners we have developed over the years. We do 40, 45 capstones every year. We have a huge number of partners in France, Europe, in the world. And that's also a resource for internship, for training, for capstone, for your career in the future. And those resources are combined with all the alumni, and we have several thousands of alumni that are resources for your career. You also may have some exchange for 1 semester in as you see, London, Amsterdam, Milan, Zhejiang, Hong Kong, Beijing. And let me emphasize that it's a team of people, the urban school. We have a remarkable administrative team, and because we are a mid-sized city, you have quite a very precise people follow you, and a group of scholars that produce a lot of research, and that's the project of Sciences Po. You are also trained and you follow classes done by people doing research, which is a particular type of training that is very important. To conclude, whether you come from the university system, from a particular type of professional schools in health, architecture, education, engineering, business, whether you come from different parts of the world, we have people from the 5 continents, from Europe or from France. We need young professionals to be involved in dealing with some of the most pressing issues in those cities. People who want to change the world and the inhabitants in the cities. And changing the world in the cities, it's the way we think about things. Welcome, join us. Those big cities, they need you. So that's a program that you have in the urban school. And in a minute, you're going to see a little video about one of the study trip that takes place, for every degree you have different study trips. And then Fatoumata will tell you about her experience as a student at the urban school. But to conclude, you understand this is really a training program with different bits and pieces to get you armed for the future. And whether you come from different universities from all the continents we have in our school, whether you come from professional schools in health education, architecture, planning, whatever, commerce, engineering, whether you are young professionals coming just for your first bachelor, come along. We need some young professionals able to be engaged and wanting to change the life of inhabitants. A lot of solutions of the world will be elaborated and implemented in cities and territories. Come and join us.
It's one of the most expected events of the GLM master's degree, the study trip. This year, we went to Metro Manila, the capital city of the Philippines, to concretize and strengthen what we learned during the first semester. This fast-growing metropolis has more than 15 million inhabitants spread over 17 cities, making it the most dense urban area in the world. As a result, Metro Manila faces a dramatic amount of issues: pollution, congestion, high exposure to natural hazards, and striking inequalities are part of the challenges that keep threatening the metropolis and its inhabitants, and urge the need for rethinking the current trends of urban governance. For its first study trip in Asia, the Urban School of Sciences Po collaborated with the Ateneo de Manila University and organized an ambitious program.
A week in Manila has taught me a lot of things. Even the government and the private sector are treating the urban poor as an object, but the urban poor are aware that they are a subject that can influence the future of the city.
It gave us a unique opportunity to grasp the complexities of governing a large metropolis, providing us with the perfect introduction to the second semester.
Hi, I'm Fatoumata, and I graduated from the Urban School in 2019. I'll tell you a bit more about my student experience within the Urban School, and more specifically, the degree governing the large metropolis. So this degree, which is entirely in English, starts with a first semester which is quite heavy, I have to say. So on the one hand, you have a lot of theoretical, conceptual courses which really allow you to wrap your head around the current debates surrounding urban governance in the 21st century. And then, on the other hand, you have methodology courses, which allow you to, learn a bit more about quantitative and qualitative methods, both the logics that are underlying within both of these fields of methods, but also in a very applied manner, where you're invited to, as soon as you get these skills, to just apply them to a real life case. So after this first semester, which is quite engaging intellectually and, takes quite a lot of your time, you just get a chance with the study trip to materialize and make all of these skill sets and all of the knowledge you just acquired much more concrete, much more tangible, and that's something that's common to all of the degrees of the Urban School. So in 2019, we went to Manila, as you just saw, but many other cities were the object of the study trip in Europe, like Manchester, Barcelona, or anywhere else in the world when it comes to GLM and GTEC. So you go to the study trip, you just exchange with so many actors, and then you come back and you have to write this collective report with all of your cohort regarding what you learned, observed, and analyzed on the trip. Then the second semester goes on. It's a semester during which you are brought to specialize, specifically regarding regional specialization, especially if you're interested in some regions of the world a bit more than others. The specificity of the second semester is the capstone project. During the capstone project, you get to really start a project with a partner and follow it through all the way to its completion and its delivery. So there's a rewarding aspect to that, but it also allows you to have one foot in the professional world at the same time as, you know, pursuing your education at the urban school and continuing to deepen your theoretical knowledge about cities. During the third semester, you get a bit more courses which are a bit less long, and the workshop format prevails. So your teachers are generally practitioners. You get to actually go deeper in the topics of your choices, whether it be some sectors that you're more interested in or some problematics that you're more interested in. And I guess it's a good end to the program, as it makes all of the things that you've learned throughout the first and second semester even more tangible and even more hands-on than they already were. Then comes the fourth semester. Everyone goes their own way, everyone gets their own internship, and that's the final point to our 2-year program. So here goes my experience at the urban school. I hope you learned something from it, and I thank you all for joining us today.
So that's what the urban school is about. It's quite a unique set of programs combining those capstones, this 5 months internship, very high-level classes in methods and discussing conceptual issues that will follow you for the rest of your life. It's also unique, trying to develop strong professionalization, but also a sharp critical mind with a comparative way to think about those issues. As I said, a lot of these solutions about the future of the world will be elaborated in cities. Come and join. That's where actions take place.
Sciences Po.